Welcome to the Clive Barker Podcast, episode 69. This is Anthony DiBlasi's screenplay for the Damnation game. So obviously this never went on to be filmed. So anyway, really interesting. Jose and I happened to come across this on the internet, so we decided to do an episode about it. It's... Yeah, well, you'll find out as you go through what we thought. One quick thing I wanted to talk about here really fast. I've got if you want to help support the podcast, I've put up some eBay auctions for some posters. So I've got one Nightbreed Cabal Cut poster, and that's kind of rare because the Nightbreed Cabal Cut phenomenon is kind of over as we move into the extended director's cut. That's coming from Shout Factory. So I've got one of those. I've got, I think, like 10 or so posters of the Marvel Razor line, Clive Barker comics posters. And then I've got 10 or so Everville posters that are basically Clive Barker with a black background behind him. And it says... it's like promotional posters for Everville. So anyway, I think they're like $10 a piece, and the Nightbreed one is $15. But what it would really do is help support the podcast, and you get something for it. So go on eBay. CB_podcast is the seller name. And grab one. So yeah, that would really help us out a lot. Anyway, once again, episode 69, Anthony DiBlasi's Damnation game. Welcome to episode 69 of the Clive Barker Podcast. I guess if you've read the title, you know that this is that our main topic is the script for the Damnation game. This is an unused script by Anthony DiBlasi.
Yeah,
and if you know who that is, he made the movie Dread.
He made and produced a bunch of stuff for Clive Barker. He was executive producer of Book of Blood. He was executive producer of The Midnight Meat Train. He was executive producer / producer of The Plague, if you remember that one. So, and he was also executive producer and director of Dread.
Who directed Book of Blood?
The director of Book of Blood was John Harrison.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for some reason I was thinking about that the other day. It's like, we know all the directors of everything that Clive Barker has done, but I could not remember who did Book of Blood. Right.
It's a lesser known movie, but it's still one of my favorite ones of the latest adaptations that have been made. I thought some people think it's a little slow, or that there are some scenes that are not very scary or anything, but I think it has this tension on it that's really, really interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So I guess if we go on to the news, there was a delay in Clive Barker's first tale. So, Clive Barker wrote a note to everybody that pre-ordered it in email. He said, "Hello, I'd like to begin by thanking you for supporting First Tales. I'm here to inform you of an extended delay in the shipment of your order. It's taking longer than we anticipated to print these books, have them bound, signed, and delivered into your possession. Our first foray into the world of self-publishing has been as thrilling as it has been educational. Mm-hmm. At the moment, the plan is to have the last of our orders shipped out late May / early June. So it was supposed to be in April before. The book is beautiful, and I cannot wait for you to hold it in your hands. My passion for sharing first tales with you remains my utmost priority.
Wow, well, interesting.
Yeah, and he goes on to say, in the meantime, Seraphim and Topspin will continue to send updates about the status of your book. Thank you again. Your patience and understanding have not gone unnoticed. Fondly, Clive.
Yeah, I mean, before this, the closest thing we had to like author's editions were Phil and Sarah's books. Which are about Clive Barker. Mm-hmm. But now that Seraphim is spreading into the foray of publishing, self-publishing, then it's going to be interesting. This is going to be their first effort. I think people will take this as an example.
And I don't mind. I mean, I don't. It seems like, you know, every time we get one of these specialty books, we're waiting for a long time. So I've learned not to get impatient about these things.
Yeah, and also it's normal for these editions, which are shorter in, you know, limited editions, shorter in number. It's normal for them to have several tiers of detail and perfection in the editions, and it reflects accordingly to price. So you have like the paperback, and then you have like the hardcover, and then you have the signed hardcover, and then you have like the limited edition hand-bound signed hardcover with like a drawing by someone inside. So, of course, these will have different tiers of prices. So just pick your tier, and, you know, the story is pretty much the same in all the books. Exactly the same. So, you know, if you're happy with just a paperback, that's up to you. And
the audiobook is free right now still, I think.
Mm-hmm. So yeah.
The next one, the Imaginer art book, I think they had originally planned to have it ready by Comic-Con, which it would have been in July, but San Diego Comic-Con, but now they're thinking it'll be August that it'll be finished.
We're talking about Thomas Ngovan's book, right?
Yeah, the Imaginer art book. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so which is no big deal. I think they're still going to be doing orders for the book there, and maybe they'll have like an example to show off.
Yeah, and you were a backer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it means your book is it's coming. You know, just be patient.
August. Yep, it'll be coming for Joey's birthday.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be the first real, you know, published book of Clive Barker's paintings, apart from the one from Rizzoli, which apparently was recalled or something and was never really actually put on sale, even though I know a lot of people who have one. So,
that made me think about it. I'm sure that I bought mine at like a Barnes & Noble.
Yeah, I think I bought mine through eBay, so that doesn't really add information.
But that was really interesting to learn. That was a cool interview because we didn't really know that much about what happened to that book.
Exactly. I do remember complaining all the time about the silver, the golden decoration on
the guild.
Yeah. Which kind of stuck together, and it was a big of a mess to set straight. But you know, so yeah, great. So
I
August.
Guess they could have just left that out, and no one would have complained. Nobody would say, "How come my book doesn't have gold on the pages?"
Yeah, I guess they only found out when they already printed everything. So, so Thomas Ngovan's book, Imaginers, coming in August.
Yep, and there's a Next Testament signing on May 13th at Meltdown Comics. So if you want to see Mark Miller and have him autograph your first probably 8 issues of Next Testament,
he's going to sign until his hand hurts.
Yeah, yeah. And then, more Century Guild news. They have Terry Cat prints available. So you can order those from Century Guild.
That's cute. Yeah, that's cute. I know a lot of people are going to go for the Terry Cats because, you know, they're cats, they're colorful, they look nice.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah.
I would get one, but prints are kind of expensive. It's like $300, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a bad deal, but just for right now.
For $400, you can probably get a sketch from Clive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the last thing, we got a little update from Del Howison. He says Tor informed him that Midian Unmade will come out next spring. So for people who don't remember, Midian Unmade is the the collection of short stories about the fall of Midian and Nightbreed. So
Yeah.
So you and I both submitted stories to that got rejected.
Yeah, yours was like Jerry's left hand, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I shared my story on the blog. I mean, if you can consider one day maybe sharing your story, that might be interesting.
That's a good idea. Actually, I've had some stories, not stories that I wrote, but I mean like Clive Barker news and things sort of piling up. And I've gotten so busy with work that I haven't had time to post them.
Right.
So like this one about the First Tales. I wanted to put that on the website, but I just didn't have time today.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, wasn't there something on Occupy Midian? I think Michael Plumety said something about the Nightbreed pitch. I think he dropped some more light on how it's going to be like. That Boone and Laurie have a kid, and he's going to be called Ezra.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what they're working on, the script for the TV show of Nightbreed that's under development. So apparently Laurie and Boone had a kid called Ezra, and he's going to be really powerful. And
Boone is going to be like in a lumber camp under a different name. And, and what is that guy's name is going to be with him?
His protector is a guy called Milton Two-Tree.
Yeah, Milton Two-Tree.
And his concept art was already published on Occupy Midian at one point. He's like this lumbering, huge, monkey-looking guy. Actually, it's more like a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And, so it's pretty badass.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm really interested to see where that goes.
Right, yeah. Well, let's see. That's just putting the information out there that for completists, this got talked about in Occupy Midian, so there you go.
Yeah, so here we are. This is an unused script for the Damnation game by Anthony DiBlasi. So he wrote the script for Dread. This is an adaptation, and if you remember how Dread was written, what the dialogue was like, how the story was changed around from the short story, then that's kind of what you're going to get with this, and we can kind of go through it a little bit here.
Yeah, I was actually, the first time I read the script, this script is, it says here, the Damnation game written by Anthony DiBlasi, based on the novel by Clive Barker, Phoenix Pictures, June 21st, 2011.
Yeah.
So, yeah, based on the book by Clive Barker is right. It's really very loosely based.
Yeah.
I mean, to the point where it's almost unrecognizable in some parts.
In parts, yeah. There are some parts that I think still have the spirit of the story, but other parts kind of make you mad. It's like, what'd you do that for? You didn't have to do that. It's like he just wanted to put his own stamp on the movie. Yeah,
it's turned into this kind of noir thing. It's like an LA Confidential kind of thing, except it takes place in the Jersey Shore in Atlantic City.
Yeah.
So it's weird. It's like the tone is
exactly set in the United States, and this was such a British and European novel.
Right. Yeah. And oh my God, we're gonna get to it, but the characters are changed so much.
Yeah.
I mean, they're literally unrecognizable again.
Right at the very beginning, where we're set in, we see Marty in two different scenes that are like intercut between each other.
Uh-huh.
One of them is the scene where the botched robbery where his brother dies and he goes to prison, and another is him in a casino and he sees Vasiliev, the Russian.
Yeah, and in the beginning, well, I guess we should get started on the beginning of the story more or less. I mean, we're not going to go through the whole story, but there are we're just going to tell the outlines in general, I guess.
Yeah.
So
why is Vasiliev his friend? He was supposed to be. Wasn't Vasiliev was Whitehead's?
Yeah, it opens. The story opens in Warsaw, Poland, like the book does. But that's pretty much the only similarity that's gonna be here. So so it's like the thief is looking, he's plundering the city, and first thing that really comes to mind is, okay, so who's this thief and what is he doing? And then he goes into the hotel, And in the hotel, there's a bunch of like artwork and stuff that he plundered through the city. Mm-hmm. But it's like the hotel is in ruins, and I guess anybody could go in there. So why is he putting his treasures in a corner of the lobby of the hotel where anyone can walk in and just find the stash that he has been putting there? You know,
yeah.
I mean, and so basically, the thief is going to be Joseph Whitehead. If you read the book, you know that the thief.
Yeah.
The story.
I kind of doubt we're going to spoil the book for anybody.
Right.
And we already did a Damnation game episode.
Yeah. And the story here is completely changed. I mean, there's none of the subtlety or ambience of Clive Barker's novel here. Yeah. It's like he is meeting... It's almost like a TV film in some ways, how it's written. Yeah. Like, the thief meets this guy who stands on the doorway, so it's like all the scenes are like framed in a way that look like they were shot in like a noir style. Mm-hmm. And it's like a Russian lieutenant is at the door, and he goes like, do you have it? And it's like, yeah. And then the thief throws like a bag of golden coins at the guy, and says, here it is, there's the payment. And it's like, it's completely wrong. The tone is completely wrong. And I thought at first the Russian lieutenant was going to be Vasiliev.
He should have been.
He should have been, because that's how it is in the book. But no, Vasiliev is this Orson Welles-looking kind of guy who's like a gambler. And he's Russian, but that's the only part of Vasiliev, apart from his name, that's kept in the script, because he's a completely different character. And so... All right, so he finds the card player, which seems like it wouldn't be a hard thing to do because he lives in one of the fanciest places in the city, and there's like a ballet of dancing dead people.
But they still kept that line in there about like, you don't look for him if he wants you to be found. He'll find you or something. He'll make sure you find him or something like that. And but then the actual story kind of totally gives lie to that.
Because in the book, the thief discovers, kind of almost by accident, where the card player is playing. Like there's a broken building, there's a woman with no lips or whatever, and cargo pants, and so, which is really creepy. A creepy scene full of ambience and the tension and suspense. But in the script, it just becomes this little TV-like thing where. Of course, he goes to the square that the Russian lieutenant told him where he could find the card player. Yeah. And in the square, there's this abandoned church. And, of course, he goes into the church. And the huge place where the pews used to be, now the pews have been pushed back against the walls. And there's like a ballet of dancing zombies. Yeah. Dancing the waltz. Yeah. And the card player is sitting on top of a floor on top of the altar. It's like with a candle. And I'm like, oh my God, what is this? Like Broadway's production of the Phantom of the Opera or something?
Yeah. And this thing with the zombies, it's almost like they were puppets that he was controlling. And then there's this recurring theme that drives me nuts, that everywhere Mamoulian goes, and that's no surprise that that's Mamoulian, but everywhere he goes, the dead come back to life just by being around him.
Yeah, they do create that premise in this script at one point, So, but it's just creepy things that come back to life. Yeah. So, and one thing here, another nitpick of mine is they show the card player, he's carving a little wooden figure. Yeah. And he's carving it, and it already has strings attached to it, because they say he's carving the little thing in the shape of a man, like a puppet, and the strings just are hanging out of it. So he puts the strings before he even carves the puppet. He
hung him on a block of wood.
I know. So okay, I just had to say it because I think that would have been something to change.
Yeah, probably the director would make some of this stuff make sense. Like in the beginning, that intercutting between the past and the botched robbery and the casino is really confusing, trying to figure out which one is the past and which one's the present. Right,
it's a little confusing. I guess with a visual aid it would be easier to figure out. But so, all right, so the card player, who is Mamoulian, meets the thief, who is Joseph Whitehead. They start playing a game. and then it cuts. It cuts to. Oh yeah, and there's another thing, because obviously this is so convoluted we didn't even mention it, but when there's a Russian lieutenant and the thief are talking regarding the location of the card player, he paid for the information. The thief paid the Russian lieutenant for the information, golden coins. But then as soon as the Russian lieutenant tells him where the card player is, the thief just brings out a gun and shoots the Russian lieutenant between the eyes and takes the money back, and then he goes to find the card. And then when they start the game, the card player says something like, that people who don't pay their debts to the card player, bad things happen to them, and he says, like the lieutenant. And then at that point, like, Mamoulian kind of like looks to the side of the room, and there's like a man goes into the hallway again, and it's like the Russian lieutenant that the thief killed. Yeah, he's standing right there.
He's like the Flash, I guess. He can run really fast after he dies.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, well, it's much, much creepier and much, much more sophisticated and elegant the way Vasiliev dies. Well, of course, this isn't Vasiliev. That's the thing that keeps popping in my mind, that the Russian lieutenant is supposed to be Vasiliev.
He's the real Vasiliev.
Yeah, but in this script, Vasiliev is another person completely that doesn't.
So they didn't even give this guy a name; they just call him the Russian lieutenant.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's stupid.
The way that happens is that he is killed. He is killed by Mamoulian, right? Because he didn't pay his debts, and then they find him floating down a sewer on fire with other dead bodies of people who didn't pay Mamoulian their debts.
Yeah.
And it's just so creepy when he describes how they turned the body around, and he sees that it's the face of the Russian lieutenant, and his body is kind of singed because it didn't really set on fire, and then later he's going to appear again, but it's a much more impacting, because we've seen him dead, and
yeah, it's like every single person that Mamoulian ever killed or is right there in the church with him.
Yeah,
dancing around.
Script, he just makes him appear out of a doorway just before they start playing the game of cards. Yeah. He says, "Well, if you don't pay my debts, it happens. You're gonna get something bad happening to you, like it did to the lieutenant." And the lieutenant's like, "Rrr."
Yeah.
It's like, okay. Yeah. I figured the lieutenant looked like Tor Johnson or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So then is the next part is the next part is the one I was talking about with the...
Yeah, which is completely unnecessary. Yeah. It's like they have to show Marty Strauss doing whatever crime he did before he gets sent to jail.
Yeah.
For some reason, just to make the movie have more action scenes.
Yeah.
But in the book, you just open with Marty Strauss coming out of jail. We don't need to know what happened to put him in jail. Yeah. We just know that he's a convict. He's coming out of jail.
And there's stuff in this adaptation that makes you hate every single character in the story.
Yeah.
So Marty does some really despicable things that we'll get to, but like Whitehead shooting the Russian lieutenant in the head and just so he can get his gold coins back.
Yeah.
I mean that's pretty terrible. That's pretty crappy. And Marty does some horrible things too later on. And Karras does, and I don't know.
Yeah. Well, everybody does bad things here, and the person who did the worst thing was the writer when he changed all these characters around.
Yeah.
What? I mean, I'm gonna come out and say it now before we get to this point, but you guys remember Breer, the Razor Eater, the pedophile Razor Eater? The scary character from the book.
Yeah, and you get that cool. Narration of what it's like when his mind is rotting and he's trying to cope with being dead and trying to understand.
In this script, Anthony DiBlasi turns Breer into this kind of like this almost.
He's a Lamborghini dealer.
He's a Lamborghini dealer. I mean, it's terrible. Yeah. He's a Lamborghini dealer, and he's like Joe Pesci to Mamoulian.
Yeah.
He
totally.
runs. He's like a a man for all service, I guess.
Yeah.
He runs the casino because in this script, it's true. Mamulian also runs a casino, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah,
it's
could you be any less subtle?
In this script, Mamulian is portrayed as a very lesser version of his, novella character.
And
in here, he's almost like a hustler, a guy who just learned how to master luck into an art form, and he kind of uses it. But this script makes it all. It's just like learning a superpower.
But it contradicts itself because there are still echoes of the novel. Like he calls Mamulian a Puritan through and through, and you're disgusted by touching people, so you have to live vicariously through other people. But then when you see the things that Mamulian does, it's not true. Right.
It's a completely different character. Like this Mamulian actually, plays roulette and does, has his own casino and there's dancers and he goes to see shows with women, And there's a really weird scene here, which is when
in the morgue?
It's a weird scene in the casino where the Pandemonium Club. There are these dancers and there's a scene written in this script where these dancers are like naked women. And they have these kind of tattoos or drawings on their skins of animals, like a snake and a dove.
Yeah.
And then they kind of grab a scalpel and start cutting themselves along the design of the animal. And then the animal kind of pops out of their flesh.
Yeah, and it's a live animal.
And it's a live animal. And it's like, we don't understand. I mean, I didn't understand.
Yeah.
Is this supposed to be special effects? Is this supposed to be like illusion?
Yeah.
An illusion show, like magic trick.
Yeah, Mamulian is sort of like Superman or Mr. Spock because like he just keeps discovering new powers to suit whatever situation he's in.
Yeah. So okay, but before this becomes a terrible mess and nobody knows what we're talking about, because
we'll go back to where we were.
A lot of people out there probably didn't have access to the script or read it.
Yeah.
So they show Strauss teaming up with his brother and another business associate, and they basically
Flynn Jarvis is his name.
Yeah, they try to pull a heist to pay gambling debts, basically,
to pay Marty's gambling debts. So basically, his brother just got dragged along.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then of course they're being chased by the police, and at one point they're trying to jump over roofs and stuff, and one of his associates, the one you mentioned his name, Jarvis.
Flynn, yeah. Flynn's like, hey, Marty.
Yeah, and for some reason, because the cops maybe are closing in or something, he shoots Marty's brother George in the throat.
Yeah.
And he throws the last few duffel bags, and it's over the fence and runs off and says, sorry, gotta go. And so basically, Marty is caught with his brother who is murdered, and he ends up going to jail, and he doesn't get money to pay his debts.
Yeah.
And then they cut to Marty coming out of jail, which is, basically how it should have started in the first place. I mean, this whole thing is just written and invented to put some action scenes in the movie.
Yeah, well, and then it gets worse. I mean, because
it does.
The reason he gets out of prison, I guess he just put in his time. Right? He didn't. It wasn't like what happened in the novel, where he was sort of on a work release where he was working as a bodyguard for Whitehead.
Exactly. Because he's still serving time in the novella, and at any point he could be sent back to jail if Whitehead didn't like what he was doing.
Yeah.
But here is like he served his full sentence. He comes out. The first thing he does, he goes into the casino where everything started.
Yeah.
But he's not there to gamble. He doesn't want to gamble. He's done with that stuff.
Yeah.
But he's in the casino where it all started.
Yeah, there's no real good explanation of why he went there.
Yeah. I mean, I guess he wanted to see people gamble or something.
Yeah,
but
and he owes a guy named Paul McNamara a whole bunch of money. It was, I guess, the money that he was stealing before he went to prison. He that's what he owes in gambling debts to this guy named McNamara.
Right. Yeah, McNamara or something.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so he's out of jail. He's in the casino, and he finds an old friend of his called Konstantin Vasilyev, which everybody should be like, what? Is that the Russian lieutenant?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. What's he doing there? That was my response. Like, what? What? Vasilyev?
Yeah. Because at that point, you're still thinking the Russian lieutenant in the first prologue of the movie was Vasilyev.
Yeah,
no.
They just didn't give him the name yet. And it's like, well, so was he a zombie here? What is going on?
No, he's
he's
guy.
a different character.
He's also Russian.
Yeah.
He's described almost like a bear and with a beard. So I always figured this guy more like an Orson Welles kind of figure. That's what popped in my mind. So he's like, oh, well, Marty, I got this big game coming up, and would you like to? And he says, no, I'm done gambling. I don't want to get back in there because I just came out of jail. And so foreshadowing, because we know Vasilyev is a high roller, so if he has a really, really good game, maybe he's going to play cards against someone who's allegedly never lost.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this guy never lost. And he's like, oh, no, they always lose. It's like, no, this guy never loses. And we're like, oh, brother.
Yeah, so it's like he wanted to put Marty Strauss in the same position that Whitehead was in, so that Strauss would become a new character like Whitehead. Instead of somebody that's sort of thrust in this weird situation and where he's more of like a straight shooter and an honest guy that, and I just hate the direction this goes and why. Yeah.
It's true. To this point in the story, it's that isn't happening yet, but the story is going to evolve in the direction where Whitehead is going to try to use Marty Strauss as a way to keep Mamoulian on the table for a while longer. So it would be like Strauss would be the person that would take Whitehead's place, like you said. And because
that Mamoulian doesn't want to go and take Whitehead with him into the darkness.
Right. Because here there's still that thing where the more luck you manipulated, I'm going to use these terms because this is what the script is treating Mamoulian's power. It's like Mamoulian's power is like luck. And it's like, when you got a streak of wins at a game and then you start losing and that's it. And there's a point in the script where Whitehead explains that is, you're doing that. You create luck. And if you learn how to control that power, you'll never lose.
Yeah.
It's turned into like an art form. So,
yeah,
I don't know. I think Mamoulian's powers are darker, more powerful, and more sinister than just being like.
Well, and it's not even like they talk about it like it's a trick that you can teach people, but then at the same time they also talk about it like it's just something that like this aura that he put over Marty Strauss, and it's something that got passed on genetically to Karras. I mean, it's just crazy, like not thought out at all.
It's a very it's the kind of thing that it's an artifice for the story. It functions in the ways that are required for the story.
Yeah.
And if you want to shock you, they'll just say, oh, this power can also be transmitted genetically here.
Yeah. And there's this, and his power to bring people back from the dead. There's this line where he talks about luck and life are similar to each other, and that's sort of why he can bring people back from the dead. It makes no sense.
Yeah, and especially because if his power was only being able to manipulate luck, then how does that explain bringing dead things to life?
God, yeah. Well, and he does it almost by accident. I mean, they don't say for sure, but it really feels like he doesn't have control over it, and just anything that's dead near him just comes back to life on its own.
Yeah, there are situations where we're left to wonder if that's what happens.
Yeah.
So
they call him a Puritan through and through. So I'm seeing stuff that are callbacks to Lord of Illusions that are not subtle, And I think that it would be really, really obvious to see this on a movie screen. So him carving a wooden puppet is like Butterfield carving the wooden figure in Lord of Illusions.
That's a good catch, actually. I didn't think of that.
And the line of Puritan through and through.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Puritan gets repeated quite a bit in Lord of Illusions, referring to Nyx.
But isn't that word also used in the Damnation game?
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, they say about Mamoulian, he's a Puritan through and through.
Oh, right. Yeah, because according to Clive, when I asked him, there were like lights of Mamoulian and Nyx.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I think that they would want to distinguish him from Nyx quite a bit. This is a watered down Mamoulian, like you said. He's not the same. He's not the same as the book. He's got shades of Nyx, but I don't know. It doesn't work.
Well, another huge difference here is we're already in page. We're in page 15 of the script, and the story changed because Marty doesn't go to work for Whitehead because Whitehead wanted someone to work for him. He ends up by accident meeting Karis before he ever meets Bill, Toy, or Whitehead. In fact,
I think that Karis is my least favorite character in this story. I mean,
for sure, she's completely changed.
She's not the same, and in fact she's almost like this stereotypical, like 15-year-old's ideal woman.
Yeah, it's like the noir detective woman in the red dress, and she acts all edgy. So the first time they meet is at the rooftop of a casino where Marty is hanging out, and he thinks he's alone at the rooftop. All of a sudden, he hears a voice, and it's a woman saying, "Hey, And he looks, and she's standing on the rail. She's literally standing on top of the rail.
Yeah.
Holding onto a pillar. And he goes like, "Oh, hello." And she's like, "Aren't you going to tell me not to jump?" And then he says some cliche thing. And she likes it, and she slides down the pillar and sits on the rail.
Yeah.
And he asks her name, and she says, "Well, if you catch me, I'll tell you my name." And then she lets herself fall over the rail.
And then there's this really stupid scene where he reaches his hand down, and it's like going to be close up on his hand, and he misses her hand, and it's like, oh no, he missed, she's going to fall and die. But then he catches her wrist. It's like, if he missed her hand, how is he going to get her wrist?
I know, and it's like you can read that scene almost as if it was meant to be shot in slow motion.
Yes. It's so hokey. I mean,
I know. And Karis is wearing a body-tight red dress.
Yes. Well, and this is one of the few scenes in the movie where she's not naked or in her underwear.
Oh, right, right.
I think she spends at least half of the movie naked or in her underwear.
Yeah. Oh, and this is going to get better because the thing is, Karis is at the casino, so she tells him her name. Then she goes onto the floor of the casino, and he's like, "Oh, I want to buy you a drink." And they start playing, and she makes this ton of money at a card game, right? And she cleans off these other three guys, and Marty sees her leave the table with her winnings and go to the elevator. And he also sees the other three guys who just lost all their money get in the elevator with her just before it closes. Yeah. And he's like, uh-oh. So he goes over to the hotel concierge.
Says that she didn't notice that they were following her. How could she not know when they get in the elevator with her?
I know. Usually you stand to the door of the elevator. You don't stand with your back to the door. So
yeah, and then stay that way the whole way up.
So he goes to the concierge. He puts down a $1,000 chip and says, "I need to know the name of the room of a guest at your hotel."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, no, we can't tell you that." And he's like, puts down the chip. "I just want the name." Mm-hmm. So obviously the concierge tells him the name, and he goes up.
And the room number, yeah.
Yeah, the room number. And there's a struggle going on. And then we see like this huge guy come out of the door flying at an impossible angle and go up against the wall and fall down. And we never really understand why that happens because she doesn't really manifest any kind of psychic powers like she does in the novel.
And there's this weird thing where people have this wild animal look on their face.
Yeah,
that it's like it gets called back quite a few times in this, and it's not really explained or paid off.
I remember at least 2 instances of that. I'm sure you got like 3.
Yeah.
So he helps Karis fight off her attackers. Some of them are like really freaked out. I don't know why. Like you said, one of them is running down the hall. He's got like this frightened animal look on his eyes.
And the other guys are still staying behind, and they want to get revenge because she beat them at gambling by raping her.
Yeah, like you'd imagine they just want to break into her room and say, all right, give us the money and we'll leave. And no, they're like, no, of course they have to try to rape her. The larger man in the room has to try to rape her, and Marty has to fight him. And then he pulls out a gun.
This is crazy. So every single fight Marty gets in, somebody pulls out a gun, and Marty has to beat the gun out of their hand.
Yeah, or have another gun.
In the whole script, this is like a repeating theme. And then they put this crazy, crazy scene where they're wrestling and fighting, and they go through the window and fall 8 stories into a swimming pool.
Yes!
So it's like, you accept that in like an 80s or a 90s action movie.
I know.
But in a Clive Barker horror novel, no. I mean, you cannot do that.
This is like a Michael Mann movie. This is like a Miami Vice episode.
Yeah.
It's like yellow Lamborghinis, red Lamborghinis, and, a woman in a red dress.
Yeah, so he beat these guys up. He threw one. He took one down 8 stories into the swimming pool with him, and he got knocked out.
Because the guy shoots. The guy pulls a gun and shoots next to, Marty's head repeatedly. And he misses, and he hits the window, and it breaks the window into a million pieces, and then he just kind of hurls the guy out the window with him, and they fall 8 stories into a swimming pool. Yeah. And it makes it onto the news.
Yeah. So and there's this weird time delay that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Like, it's on the news, but Marty got knocked out, and he wakes up in Whitehead's house.
Yeah, and Karis is already there. And,
so Karis is... Yeah, exactly. Karis is already there. He's asleep. It's already on the news, but he's been asleep the whole time. How did it get on the news so fast?
There's a bunch of cliches. It's like Anthony DiBlasi went to, like, TV tropes and just spent, like, an afternoon looking at cliches you can put into this
And what
script.
Is he doing recovering in a house instead of the hospital?
Or, being asked questions by the police.
Yeah.
I'm sure the police would be interested to know what happened to those 2 guys who were shooting stuff and falling 8 stories into a pool.
Yeah, and one of them just got out of prison.
Yeah. Not to mention that, yeah. So, and the news reporter just says, well, it's another one of those things that Karis Whitehead did for attention.
Yeah,
it's like, because Whitehead is a huge millionaire, so her daughter is like also...
Yeah, sort of a Paris Hilton type figure, I guess.
Sort of a Paris Hilton, which I really hate, because Karis is really smart and really fragile in the novel, and she even has an addiction to heroin, which her dad is giving her to keep her like dependent of him. Yeah. That's like in here, she's this random brunette bimbo in a red dress, and... She has a lot of luck as well, which will be explained.
And she's got this thing where wherever she goes, everybody has to stop what they're doing and stare at her.
Yeah, and there's another downside to this luck power that these people seem to be able to master out of nothing is that the more luck you had, the higher a price you would have to pay eventually in your private life. So it wasn't just like gain. It wasn't just like winning. You'd also have to lose bad sometimes to pay for all that luck. And so one of the things that happens to Whitehead is, there's a part where Karis is going through her dad's like personal papers.
Yeah.
And she has like newspaper clippings of.
But those are bad luck for other people, right? So it's like. Something good happens to you, so it gets balanced out because something bad happens to somebody else somewhere.
That's it. Yeah. So it's the more luck you have, it's like you're stealing luck from the general pool of luck that exists.
Yeah.
So if you have a huge empire, all your neighbors are going to be dirt poor.
And I think a major mistake of this adaptation is focusing on luck and gambling.
Yeah.
That's not. I mean, those were a major part of the book, but they weren't everything.
Right. It's more like the card game was almost a metaphor for the Faustian bargain that they did. If you got into a card game with Mamoulian, you weren't just playing a card game, that you're going to play with a deck of cards. You were playing a game where you would put at stake your soul for gaining whatever you dreamed. Yeah. So that was why he had so many dead followers, because they had all failed. And
it was kind of like a Faustian story for an atheistic kind of a world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that happens, and that's how Marty gets to meet Whitehead. He saves his daughter from being raped by 3 guys and falls 8 stories into a pool.
Yeah.
And he gets to meet Bill Toy, and he gets to know that circle of people.
Yeah. And there's a scene where Whitehead is talking. I can't remember who he's talking to, but he's explaining stuff, and then there's a spider web, and a spider is like going for a fly, but then a moth flies into the web, and he's like, "Oh, that's even better!" And the spider turns around and goes after the moth. And it was, and I can't remember what Whitehead was talking about, but that spider web thing was a total metaphor for what he was talking about, and it was so obvious that it was like hitting you over the head with it.
I know, it was like hitting you in the face with a mallet.
Yeah.
It's a fly that falls in a web, and then the fly manages to shake free and flies away. And it's when he's talking to Bill Toy about a Mamoulian that he's coming back, and they need to find a way to keep him on the game table.
Oh God, yeah. So Marty is the moth.
Yeah,
and Whitehead is the fly that escapes.
Yeah, exactly. So there's all sorts of things. Like there's a part where they say, cut to the Jersey Shore, Atlantic City. Mm-hmm. And then there's like Whitehead Mansion. You can hear a single coyote. Yeah, coyotes in Jersey.
Yeah. Yeah, and why is like this guy that's one of the most richest, most powerful men in the world living in New Jersey?
You probably hear more like a black bear or something in Atlantic City, but not a coyote. Atlantic City is in Jersey. It's not in Nevada, so it's not the desert.
But when you're writing this in California,
right?
Maybe coyotes make sense, I guess.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff here. So basically, Vasiliev. Like Whitehead tells Marty, "Hey, thanks for saving my daughter. Why don't you come over to this club tomorrow? It's going to be fun. We're going to have a private event." And so he goes with Karras, and Whitehead actually turns out he doesn't want to go there, so he doesn't really go. So just Marty and Karras go to the club, and Vasiliev is playing a card game. It's a huge stake card game. That's a big event for the party.
And there's this big reveal, like who is he playing against, and they like shroud the card player that he's playing against to make it like this mystery. Like, come on, give me a break. We're not idiots.
And they were, when he came out of jail, Marty was talking to Vasiliev, and he was telling, "I'm going to play cards against this guy who never loses."
Yeah.
No, seriously, he never loses.
Yeah, it's like I wonder who that could be.
It's Mamoulian.
Yeah.
And
what?
I'm like,
no way.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, so Whitehead in this script, he's rich because he owns like 3 big casinos.
Yeah.
And that's how he made his money. In the novella, I don't actually remember anymore how Whitehead became so rich.
It was like a lot of things. It was just a whole bunch of acquisitions of different companies and taking smaller companies. Yeah, it was a whole mix of things.
Yeah, it was a series of conglomerate of companies.
Yeah.
So here, it's just because he learned the trick of how never to lose, so he made 3 casinos and he's rich.
Yeah. It's so simplistic.
How would he not know if he's so afraid of Mamoulian? How did Whitehead not know that there was going to be that big, huge card game event with Mamoulian and Vasiliev, at the table? Well, they weren't the only ones at the table, but they're the ones that we focus when Marty and Karras go to that casino.
I think he did know that he was going to be there. I think that's why he didn't show up.
Yeah, I guess you're right. But still, it's like he's terrified of this guy, and at the same time, Mamoulian in this script doesn't appear out of nowhere. He doesn't appear out of like the.
Right, yeah, he's been around. Like, doesn't he own one of the casinos?
Yeah, he owns a casino. I mean, it's his. It's like the Pandemonium Club. It's like ominous title. And it's just stupid, I guess. I don't know.
It's like the club out of Hellraiser 3.
It just cheapens Mamoulian so much to turn him into kind of almost like this good luck gangster kind of guy. It's like, I've learned this trick. I can live forever. And
I bet there's people at the club that are wearing Dreadheads t-shirts.
Yeah. Yeah, good one. So, yes. And then after, of course, Vasiliev loses the game against the card player, who is Mamoulian. And so they have a good time there, and they're going back to their limo, going back home.
Oh, and also at that time, one of McNamara's thugs shows
right.
up. And,
it's one of those
and
situations.
Marty, of course, takes his gun away. He's like, "You're going to shoot me," and takes his gun away and beats him with it, smashes his face on the table until his teeth get lodged into his knuckles.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah. And then...
that was so bad. I was cringing so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's one of McNamara's guys, right? The guys that owes money to. For some reason, they find him by accident. It's like, oh, you're here. Well, McNamara wants his money back.
Yeah.
And he just starts punching the guy at first. He just starts punching the guy.
Yeah. And
then the guy pulls a gun and is like, "You're trying to shoot me, you son of a bitch?" And like you said, he just wails on him, takes his gun away, and wails on him until he gets a tooth lodged in his knuckle.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, he goes to the men's bathroom and spits blood, even though he never got punched, according to the script.
Yeah.
Spits blood, washes his mouth, and is like...
And then Karras goes in there with him.
And I'm like, why is he spitting blood on the sink? Because at no point does it say in the script that he got a punch back.
Yeah.
It says punch. He pulls a gun. Oh, he punches him some more, and that's it.
Yeah.
So I bet there's something here that got changed, and he didn't notice that he left this part where he's spitting blood. But
yeah.
So she was impressed by what he did, and and then it's like,
they have sex in the bathroom.
You saved my life. Even though we're at the men's room at this highly, private club, she just starts taking her clothes off, and then she, that's
like right in the main part of the bathroom on the sink.
Yeah, on the sink. Yeah, on the counter. It's like, oh my God, this is just so bad. It's like a bad, hard-boiled movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
In Atlantic City.
Yep. Okay, so she takes him. Oh wait, so then they leave and they get in the car. I think that's where we were at.
Right, and they find Vasiliev. Actually,
and he sort of invites himself into the car with them, and he's like, and Marty's kind of like, no, I don't think so. But Karras is like, oh, it's okay, you can come along.
Yeah, because he just lost millions in the card game. Mamoulian, there were like $4 million at the table.
Yeah, and he's all kind of edgy and upset.
He's like, "Can you give me a ride?" It's like, "Oh, it's not my ride." Well, and then Karras says, "Okay, he can ride with us."
Yeah.
And that's when he gets in the car and Marty asks him, "So where are you going?" He's like, "I'm not sure yet." Yeah. And then we know, something bad's going to happen.
Yeah. So, yeah, so he pulls out a gun, and he aims it at Karis for a little bit, and he aims it at Marty for a little bit, and then Marty pulls out the gun that he stole from that thug, and shoots Vasiliev right in the chest.
Oh, but there's a scene that I actually thought was cool. One of the few things I actually thought it was cool, because Vasiliev starts rambling about, when you lose money to this guy, when you lose a card game to this guy that I just lost, you're betting more than just money, and he extended me a line of credit, and now I'm in trouble. It's like, and Marty's like, well, sorry to hear that, dude, but that's your problem. And then he goes like, well, I guess I'm going to have to do this to, He just points the gun at Karis because we understand that he's like doing Mamulian's bidding, I guess.
Yeah.
But before he does that, he takes out a bullet and he spins the chamber and he lets it go back in, roulette style. And so there were 5 bullets in the chamber when he's pointing the gun. And Marty shoots him. And Vasiliev shoots back, but nothing happens because he got the empty chamber.
Yeah.
And I thought that was cool. It's like, dude, even when he's like trying to, kill someone, he's like trying to gamble as well. It's like,
oh yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and so that's an act of extreme good luck for Marty, and because Vasiliev gets shot. So they take the limo back to Whitehead Mansion, and it's like, well, we'll take care of this guy. And so I guess he becomes kind of a protege of Whitehead because he saved his daughter for the second time.
Yeah. So at this point, we're thinking, okay, maybe this is where the movie's going to get back on track and be more like the novel, because now we have Marty Strauss working for Joseph Whitehead.
Yeah.
But no.
No, because at this point it gets confusing. I wasn't even sure at one point, who is he working for? Who's Marty working for? Is he working for Joseph Whitehead or is he working for Mamulian? Because he talks to Whitehead about this guy, this card player, the Mamulian, and he says, well, he spends a lot of time when he's in town. He spends a lot of time in this place called the Pandemonium Club. Yeah. And then the next scene, of course, is Marty goes to the Pandemonium Club. And he goes there.
That scene with the tattoo ladies with the scalpel.
Yeah, the tattooed ladies with a scalpel, which is a really freaky scene because I don't understand what they were going for here.
No.
I don't understand if it's supposed to be magic, if it's supposed to be illusionism, if it's supposed to be just like a laser show or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. It seems like it's power that Mamulian gave them, but it's like, well, what can't he do?
Right. I mean, why aren't people freaking out that these magic things are happening on stage where ladies with animals painted on their skin use a scalpel to cut around the shape of the animal, and then an animal actually emerges from their skin. Yeah. It's like, it's weird. It's ridiculous.
So at this point, is Karis taking him to the Orpheus, or is that hasn't happened yet?
I'm not sure. There is that scene, though.
Yeah, so she takes him to the Orpheus and is like, oh, my mother died here. And we're like, what?
Yeah, and then she wants to have sex with him on a burned-down hotel where her mother died.
Yeah, and there's this line that was just, for some reason, just made me really angry. Let's see.
Oh, is it when she makes a joke about her mother smoking?
Well, that was later. Yeah, that's horrible. Yeah. No, this one was my father bought OnStar the day I started driving.
Right, which is going to turn out useful a little further ahead of the story.
There's a callback to it, but it's like, why you don't, when you think of Damnation game, do you think of OnStar?
Not really.
It's like. And it's almost like product placement, like when people turn the Coca-Cola can out so that you can read the logo. But and you have hamburger bags in TV shows that magically change position. Yeah, according to the camera angle, they just flip around. Shot to shot. Yeah. Yeah. So OnStar actually even helps save Karis's life at one point.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
a little gecko could appear.
Yeah.
Say,
Yeah.
hey, you know you can save 15% car insurance in just 15 minutes?
Yeah.
By the way, Geico, send us a check.
Yeah. And
Anyway.
OnStar, you need to send us a check.
So, yeah, there's moments like that. But the moment when Marty goes to the casino and he talks to Mamoulian, that's when what you mentioned before happens, when Mamoulian just starts playing high stakes in a roulette to make his point to Marty that he has potential and, I have this secret and people have secrets.
Yeah.
And,
and it's like he's talking about it like it's a skill, and Marty's discovering it just by playing roulette and winning all the time. It's like, that's not a skill. Either Mamoulian's doing it for you right now,
right?
Which is not true because we find out later on that Marty can do this crap on his own. Or somehow he's just put this power on Marty or this aura that makes him so he can't lose. That's not a skill.
Right. I think that's what it is. That's what he did to people like Whitehead as well.
Yeah.
He not only taught them something or how to bend like luck to their will, but he also kind of provided them with a certain aura of his own luck.
Yeah.
To keep them dependent upon himself, So, yeah, he's making his point to Marty by playing roulette and betting on the same numbers all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like 14 red, 6 black, 17 red or something.
And it's a really, really long sequence of him winning where it's like where the odds get higher and higher that he's going to lose, but he still keeps winning anyway. And it goes on forever. He
just, every time he bets, one of the numbers wins.
Yeah.
And then the next number in sequence that he bets is the next number that's going to win.
Yeah.
So he keeps doing the same bet, but less and less numbers because he's been winning whenever those numbers are called.
Yeah.
And so until, of course, he plays the last one and puts everything on it, and he wins again. And that's when Marty starts playing the roulette as well, because he says, all right, now it's your turn. Take this money and start playing. And he picks a number and he wins, and he keeps winning.
And then coyotes break into the casino, and they're running all over throughout the casino. No, not really.
No. But it gets really worse, because then he starts working for Mamoulian by laundering money somehow. Like Mamoulian is a gangster. But at the same time, it might not have been to launder money. But there's this complicated sequence where he meets Anthony Breer. Oh, yeah, we forgot to mention Breer.
Is Karras his cousin?
Breer is Karras' cousin in this script. And when he actually...
Christ.
Yeah, and when he went to that party, that private event, when he went out the first time with Karras, Breer was like the host of that.
Yeah.
And he comes in a yellow Lamborghini with a honey pot on each arm. And then...
and he had like Texas Longhorn mounted on the front of the Lamborghini.
Oh, God, that's so terrible.
Yeah.
That's what they did with Anthony Breer. And then Karras says something like, nice car. And he's like, well, they didn't have day glow, so I had to pick yellow.
Yeah. And
I'm like, oh, my God. And then he says, oh, that's a nice car. Oh, I'll get you one. It's like, sure. It's like, no, really, I own the lot.
Yeah. So so Anthony Breer, the Razor Eater, who was supposed to be from this lost European tribe of Razor Eaters, in this movie is a Lamborghini dealer, like rich playboy douchebag that nobody wants to be around. Yeah.
And he works for Mamoulian. So back to this scene here where he's in the casino with Mamoulian. He has such a wonderful night, and he wins a lot of money. And then the next day, Breer shows up at his house and says, "Hey, here's your winnings from last night, and here's what you're going to do. If you want to work for Mamoulian." There's this complicated scene where it's intercut between what Breer is describing the job's going to be like, and then we see Marty do the things that he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like he's supposed to go to this other casino and play against this other guy who owes Mamoulian something.
So he's just gonna lose all the time because this other guy. Yeah.
And he wins all the money that guy had in a casino on a card game or something. And then he says, after you do that, you're free to go do whatever you want. So there's kind of this montage in the script where he's like driving a silver Porsche or something at one point, and he's got duffel bags full of money, and he has to put them in a what do you call it? A bus terminal locker.
Yeah.
Like you just put all that money in locker number 7,
and leave the key in the lock.
Leave the key in the lock, and I'm like, what is this? Some kind of like money laundering scam that Mamoulian is running?
Yeah.
And then it so happens that when he's doing that, he sees Flynn Jarvis, the guy who killed his brother.
And he's the guy that comes along to pick up the money, right? Or no?
He's the garbage man.
Oh, okay. I thought he was coming along to like scoop that into the garbage. Maybe I read that into it.
Yeah, I think. Well, I'm not going to go back to the script again, but
you can't make me.
You can't make me. So, but yeah, well, he finds this guy, and he's doing some kind of job, and he follows him to the crappy place where he lives.
Yeah.
And he breaks into this house, and he basically.
And Jarvis
he gets shot at by Jarvis because he realizes he has an intruder.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh, it's you, Marty. I'm sorry about George.
Yeah,
I think about
sorry
that all
for shooting
time.
at you. If I'd known it was you, I wouldn't have." It's like, well, what do you think is going to happen now that you murdered his brother and left him there and let him go to prison?
Right. He tries to get friendly for some reason, and that's stupid. It's like, but I'm not the same man I used to be. It's like I got 2 little girls now, and
I'm trying to get clean, and like in mid-sentence, Marty shoots him in the throat.
And he shoots him in the throat. I thought that was like, oh man. Honestly, at that point, the script kind of got me in that point where I thought, okay, he's probably going to let him go, and then bam, he just shoots him in the neck while he's talking about his wife
and kids.
Going back to school and his kids.
So at this point. Is Marty the hero of this movie?
I don't know.
Is anybody the hero of this movie? Who's the protagonist?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, I think it's supposed to be Marty, but there's so many other characters in here.
Yeah, maybe Karras some of the time.
Some of the time,
I don't
Breer
know.
Another part of the time, which I'll give it that. In the novella, it's also a little bit like that. You either see what Karras is doing, or you see what Breer is doing, or you see what Marty is doing.
Yeah.
So to that extent, or you see what Whitehead is doing. But so yeah, in this I'm sorry, where were we?
Okay, so he shot him in the neck.
Oh yeah, he shot him in the neck.
And he went back. He had flown to California and did all this stuff.
Right.
And now he went back home, and I think he got the money again somehow.
Yeah,
he was waiting for him in his hotel.
He was waiting for him in his hotel. He wakes up and there's like a bag of money.
And Mamoulian was there.
It's like, for a job well done. And then Mamoulian was there, and
what do you
they have a
plan
conversation
to fly to California for if he's going to go anyway?
Because he wanted him to be able to take revenge on his brother.
Yeah, and he wanted him to see that he set that up for him.
Yeah, he says something like, now your brother George can rest. And it's like, oh, did you know he was going to be there? It's like, well, no, I took a gamble. Something like that.
Yeah.
So we understand he's trying to seduce Marty into his servitude by providing him a taste of what it's like to have those powers. And at the same time, he's letting him, hey, here, you can take revenge on your brother. Yeah. And if you hang out with me, you can have everything,
Yeah.
So, yeah. So what happens after that?
So, and Breer really does give him a Lamborghini, so he gets a red Lamborghini.
Right. He gets a red Lamborghini from Breer.
So product placement so far, we have Lamborghini and OnStar.
Yeah. For now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then I think that at one point Karras tries to break up with him.
Yeah.
Because she's scared because she's been seeing pictures of Mamoulian in her father's private papers, and she she's starting to wonder, what's the story with Mamoulian, because he at one point appears to Karis in like the family crypt, and it's a really crazy scene that I really didn't understand.
Yeah, and she's visiting her mother's grave, and Mamoulian shows up, so her mother turns into the zombie and starts scratching at the inside of and screaming and scratching at the inside of the coffin.
Yeah, and then I don't really understand where it goes from there. But basically, Mamoulian's going to try to get to Joseph Whitehead by kidnapping his daughter, which he does.
And she tries to kill herself, right? She gets out a gun.
Oh,
and
yeah.
She does Russian roulette at like a whole bunch of times and misses every time. Right,
I'm sorry, we should have said that.
Yeah, and so I don't know if they're trying to say because Mamoulian shows up and maybe, puts luck on her side, or she has this power on her own because, as we're going to find out later, she's actually Mamoulian's daughter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really understand what was going on here, but basically Mamoulian is going to... There are no little Mormon kids in this book. That the story is already drastically changed, and it's about to get even more different. So basically, to wrap this up, it's kind of like Mamoulian kidnaps Karis with Breer, who in the meantime, for some reason, has killed 2 girls with a razor and then tried to take his own life.
Yeah, well, and actually Marty kind of helped with that too, because so Breer and Marty are like goons for Mamoulian now, and they go to find McNamara because Marty owes him all this money. And earlier on, Marty had brought his bag of money and said, "Here you go, that's everything I owe you." And McNamara got greedy and said, "No, this is just a third of it because there's all the interest from the time you were in prison." And Marty is like, whatever, and he leaves. And then he and Breer come back later and break into his house and put like a bag over his head, and Breer slits his throat, and then his 2 little girls come out and see it, and Marty takes off running because he can't handle the fact that these girls, were involved or whatever, and then so Breer had to kill these little girls.
Yeah, but I don't think he kills them in the script. I mean, it's not written specifically, but it's written that he comes out of it with like a bloody blade and bloody hands.
It's implied because they're in the later on they're in his house in a hole in the floor in the basement.
Yeah, and it's like, how do they get there? How do they get from that McNamara's house? How do they get to Breer's basement buried under the floor?
Yeah, and I think that it's because he kidnapped him at first and he didn't know what to do with him.
Probably.
And then after a while, he just gave up and killed them, and then he felt really horrible about it and hung himself.
And then that part is kind of like the book.
Yeah, except that was like near the beginning of the book, and now we're near the end of the movie.
Exactly. But just to be able to turn Breer from a Lamborghini lot owner to a razor-eating... Well, he doesn't really eat the razor, but a razor-wielding
he puts him on his
rotting
tongue.
zombie.
He does put one on his tongue at one point and swallows it, I thought. But I think he was trying to kill himself. It's not really clear.
Yeah. And anyway,
it's just supposed to be a callback to the novel, but it doesn't make any sense.
It's a desperate attempt to be able to say, wait, I've really steered away from the novel, but hey, let's put a little bit of the novel back in here.
He's a razor eater, see?
So, yeah, so he's a zombie. He tried to, hang himself, and Mamoulian brings him back to life. Not that he knows.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't realize that until later. But, so basically, yeah, he becomes under a thrall of Mamoulian's power, and he goes. And they kidnap Karis, and then Whitehead has that famous, dinner / let's drink all the wine in the cellar.
Yeah.
With all my friends and some hookers.
It was nice to see something familiar again.
Yeah,
because we had strayed so far away from the.
Oh, I think before that there's a horrible sequence where Joseph Whitehead is walking in his house and he hears this music being played, and he goes to the room and he opens the door and he thinks it's Karis playing the piano, and then he touches her hair and her hair wig falls. And it's like his dead wife's reanimated body playing the piano.
Yeah. So I didn't quite get if that was like a phantom or an illusion or a ghost, or if that was really her body that Whitehead went to the trouble of
I don't know.
digging up. I mean, not Whitehead, but Mamoulian went to the trouble of digging it up just to torture him.
Right. I think it's supposed to be like a spectral figure or something.
Yeah.
Because after she delivers like Mamoulian's, threat that, you see what he could do to me. He brought me back from the dead, and you need to pay the price of what, Mamoulian gave you. And then she kind of like disappears. So, in the script it says she's gone. She's here 1 minute, then the next minute she's gone. Yeah. We don't understand if it's like she's gone, she falls to the floor like a dead body, or if she disappears in midair. We don't really. But anyway, so there's that scene with
also we had skipped past this, but when Mamoulian had taken Whitehead from the casino.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like taking him around, and he took him into and Marty was drunk, and he took him to a morgue and started reanimating the corpses. And this woman comes out of a slab, and she's like reanimated, and she gets up, and Marty freaks out, and then she like starts performing fellatio on Mamoulian.
I think that she grabs onto his belt and hides behind his waist. I think that's what's written.
I thought that's what was implied there.
Huh. Well, that's one way to go about it, I guess. But that scene is all so weird. Like, they're talking in the casino.
And if that's really, if what I thought was what happened, then that's totally against that whole, like, he's a Puritan thing.
Right. So, it's really weird. It's really weird script. There's a lot of strange moments like that. But basically, what happens is eventually they will meet each other, the Whitehead and... let me go back. Sorry.
Then those two girls that did the tattoo slicing thing... find Marty because after the zombie episode in the morgue, he wakes up outside on a bench or something, and they come out and they like help him to his apartment. It's really it's really weird. It's really not like good weird. It's just this nonsense. Oh, yeah. So there was also a scene in the Orpheus where there was a quote from Paradise Lost, and he's like, do you know what that means? Do you know what that is? And Marty's like, yeah, it's Paradise Lost. It's like, well, I don't really know that Marty would have recognized that necessarily.
Right. It's a little specific.
Yeah, and Marty is more of like a pragmatic kind of tough guy.
Yeah. But, so basically what happens is that after Karis is kidnapped... Marty goes to the Orpheus, which is the burned down hotel where Whitehead's wife had passed away, burned to death.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm going back again. This really, really bugged me, but in that scene in the morgue, Marty got freaked out by the zombie lady, and he like grabbed a table and pulled it down on top of himself and knocked himself out.
Yeah, that's so stupid.
Yeah.
I know, that is pretty stupid.
Yeah.
If it seems like this is a little bit of a jumbled mess, it's because it kind of is.
Yeah. Oh, and Karis, when she discovered this, now we're at the part where she discovered this box of newspaper clippings that have, like, all the good things and then all the bad things that happened.
Yeah.
Why did Whitehead put all that stuff in a box?
It's exposition, I guess.
Yeah,
Cheap exposition. I know, it's like... I don't get it. It's just an artifice for exposition, really. But ultimately, what happens here is that Marty goes to the Orpheus. He suspects that Whitehead might be in there, and he finds out that after a few floors in the burned down hotel, the floors are actually pristine, and there's a suite at the end of one of those floors, and that's where Whitehead is hiding. And he knocks on the door, and Whitehead doesn't want to let him in. But he's like, you ran away and you let your daughter get kidnapped. And it's like,
He even actually shoots him.
Right.
Like in the shoulder or something. And there was a scene before where there was a scene. I think maybe this is later. Yeah, during the party, right? Mamoulian shows up and Bill Toy shoots him in the head, and basically kills Mamoulian, and then drags his body out to the grounds to bury it, and then it disappears, and there's like a chase scene where Mamoulian's chasing him through the woods, and he like stumbles out into the freeway and gets run over by a truck. Bill Toy does, yeah.
We don't know if he keeps looking over his shoulder and he finds Mamoulian standing right there, and we're not really understanding if that's supposed to be like a ghostly figure of Mamoulian, or if physically he's running and putting himself behind Bill Toy whenever he looks around.
Yeah.
It's just a bad scene.
Yeah, it's just more powers that he just happens to have.
Yeah. So I know we skipped the scene. We skipped the scene where after Whitehead is doing his dinner with his guests and the hookers and the wine, and everybody leaves, he's alone at home, and Whitehead appears to him, and he says something like, we're finally here, do you want to play a game? And it's like, sure. And the worst game I ever played, it was hell. And it was like, was it really that bad? And then they start playing the game. And just before the game ends, while Mamoulian is still talking, he gets shot in the face by Bill Toy. And
what we learned during that conversation was that Karis is actually Mamoulian's daughter, not Whitehead's, and that Karis is Mamoulian's reason for staying at the table. And so Mamoulian doesn't want to die and take Whitehead with him anymore. He just wants to kill Whitehead now.
Yeah. Which is another difference. I mean,
a huge difference.
I suppose he might think that Marty might take Whitehead's place, and he could also use his own daughter, because he when he kidnaps Karis, then he tells her the truth that hotel, Mamoulian didn't kill her mother, because Whitehead said something like, Evangeline, Mamoulian didn't like her. He thought that she was like distracting me from my attention, and he had your mother killed. And then she finds out that no, what happened was Whitehead had your mother killed because he found out that I was your dad. It's like, I'm like, what? Like, so Mamoulian is Karis's dad, and he genetically transmitted his power to her.
Yeah.
To some extent, even though she doesn't really have anything except extreme luck at gambling.
And then she draws people to her, and then they have really bad luck.
Right. That's why she wanted to break up with Marty.
Yeah.
So, well, she's trying to escape. She's trying to escape him, and Marty's trying to get into the room where Whitehead is, and this is all taking place at the Orpheus.
Yeah. Well, and before that. Karis got like kidnapped in her own car and taken away, and Marty is like, I know, I'll use OnStar, and he goes to a phone booth, which is like, where do you find a phone booth?
Yeah.
And calls OnStar and is like, I need to know, I don't know where I am. Can you tell me my location of this, car with this license plate?
Oh yeah, there's a reference here. There's a Shakespearean reference for A Midsummer's Night Dream or something. Which is, you're at Prospero and Caliban.
Oh, jeez.
It's something like that. And it's like, oh, okay. Prospero and Caliban.
Wow.
So, I didn't really understand what good was it to know where he was if he was lost. I mean, he knows the names of the streets, but if he's lost, how does that help him?
We're on our way.
Oh, right, the AAA. Yeah, they were going to send the AAA.
Yeah.
And
so that was AAA was another product placement.
Oh God, there's a terrible scene also where Mamoulian releases Breer of his service.
Yeah, he throws him down the stairs and then the zombie girls torment him and then Marty comes and finds him and beats him with like a hammer or something. I think it's a hammer, but he's just smashing the crap out of him, torturing him to try to get him to explain where Karis is. And so Breer is a horrible mess, and Mamoulian is disappointed in him because he failed, and he's a mess and he's useless now, so he like throws him down the stairs and lets those girls torture him.
Oh, and let's not forget that when Mamoulian is talking about his old life, he also mentions a sword. The sword that belonged to the man who was going to cut the head off that prisoner in a temple in the middle of the snow and stuff. So he has that sword. And for some reason, Breer wants revenge from Mamoulian, and he goes and gets that sword, just as Mamoulian is at the Orpheus, and he finds Whitehead's door is open after Marty pushes his way in, and Karras is there.
And there's a tiny, tiny bit of exposition that explains where Mamoulian gets his powers, and this is so aggravating. But it's like the guy who spared his life, like one of the revolutionaries or something, had this power and wanted to share it with him. Right.
And, of course, in the novella, it's completely different. It was this monk, and, this monk saved his life and taught him.
How about a little bit less falling out of the window into the swimming pool and a little more story?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And there's this chase where Whitehead is chasing. Mamoulian is chasing Whitehead through the suites in the hotel, and then he ultimately finds a dead end with just one door, and then he says, "Well, do you really want to leave, Whitehead? Then just go." And then he opens the door, and beyond the door there's Warsaw, 1945.
Yeah.
And all the ghosts are there, and all the Russian lieutenants, and all the people are there. So, and he tries to shoot. He tries to shoot Mamoulian. Whitehead shoots Mamoulian again in the face.
Yeah.
And Mamoulian just says, "Okay, well, screw it. I'm just going to kill you then." So he just kills him.
Nick style, right? He lifts him up with this ghostly, like, strangling force, and shoves
just
him up
crumples
against
him
the
up.
wall and crushes his throat.
Yeah. So.
Will you ever learn?
And then it's when Breer just runs, the reanimated corpse of Breer runs into the building, holding the sword that was, the sword that was about to kill Mamoulian all those years ago before.
Yeah. And then a bird flies in just like it did in the flashback. Yeah,
and then Breer starts hacking at Mamoulian, and Mamoulian falls to his knees, and Breer cuts Mamoulian's head off with the sword.
Yeah, first he hits his legs and makes him fall down, and then he cuts his head off.
Right. So that's the big finale there.
And then he pours gasoline all over Mamoulian and himself and sets the hotel on fire.
Oh, and it all happens like in a matter of almost minutes. It's like he runs in, dispatches Mamoulian, immediately without missing a beat, grabs a can of gasoline, starts dousing himself and Mamoulian on gasoline, and is like go somewhere where he'll never find you, and then he just lights a match just as Marty picks up Karras and leaves the hotel that starts burning to the ground.
So Breer is still sort of a good guy.
Yeah. So it's like there's not that scene from the movie, that memorable scene at the ending where Breer just starts hacking blindly at Mamoulian until he's turned into mincemeat.
Yeah.
Here it's just chop the head off, pour yourself on fire. That's it.
Yeah, and there's none of the secret of his power and the tree, and I mean the tree is there, but it's not explained.
No, it's not really explained. It's more like Warsaw, Poland. It's like the little portal in the dimensions.
Yeah.
So and that's how everything ends, and then
Karras and Marty drive off to a hospital or something.
And then there's a voice off with Marty explaining, hell is reimagined by each generation. Yeah. Its terrors are scrutinized and reinvented to suit the current climate of atrocity. And then there's, like, in the distance, the Atlantic City skyline beckons the eye. Mm. And then he keeps talking for a long time, talking about hell used to be lava pits and lightning tearing the clouds above them. Beacons burn on its walls to summon the fallen angels. Now we all have our personal hell, even the devil himself. And it's as simple as being completely alone when it's finally time to face what's been waiting for you in the dark. Yeah. And then another horizon, the sky burns, and the city's artificial light dwindles as it's overtaken by the rising sun, fade to black. So that's it. That's the ending.
Yeah, I was sort of expecting as I was reading this, and for him to put his own twist on the ending, like in Dredd. Like he was going to totally screw up the ending and make it so completely different.
Well,
but this time it's not completely different. It's just watered down and lamer.
Well, he did it to the whole of the story, not just the ending.
Yeah, it was more of the entire story instead of the ending.
I mean, wow. Like, Mamoulian is the father of Karis.
Yeah.
Just that one thing there is just against everything Mamoulian is in the book. I mean, Mamoulian fell in love and sired a child? What? So, I don't know. It's just, it's crappy. It's a crappy script. Yeah. I'm glad it was never produced.
Well, and in the Damnation game, there were sort of hints that Mamoulian was gay. But he, but didn't want to admit it to himself, or just wanted to be, asexual. To me,
Mamoulian's almost like not really human anymore. It's more like he's more like an entity. When I read it the first time,
because he's been alive so long that he's afraid to do any living for himself.
Yeah, it's like the act of stopping. Yeah. Once you've been going for so long, it's scary because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how the price of it's like when you're really, really tired but you don't want to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Because if you fall asleep, you're going to wake up, hungover or something,
or have to go to work.
Yeah. But in his case, it's more like he's repelled by the idea of the void and the eternity and the darkness. And he doesn't want to face it. So, that's the story. That's Anthony DiBlasi.
Ugh. Yeah, there was another really irritating part where he was explaining to Marty about the sword, and Mamoulian starts telling the story of the
prisoner.
Of the prisoner and how the executions and stuff, and he's like talking about how that was an ancestor of his.
Yeah,
and that's where
talking about the third person. Yeah,
and he talks like this sword has this power. So it's like the sword has power. Some revolutionary guy that rescued him also has power that he wanted to pass on. The bird maybe has power. I don't know.
There's this weird scene where a bunch of birds actually come down and flap their wings on his face just as Breer is about to cut his head off.
Yeah.
And I don't really... It seems like the birds come out of nowhere, to be honest. Yeah. And I didn't really understand this very well. But anyway, what I thought about the script is very different. In some parts, practically unrecognizable. The characters are completely changed.
Yeah.
And it's like the old question. It's like, okay, people want to do an adaptation of a masterpiece work. And it's always going to be watered down. It's always going to be something worse because the process is... we're going to do an adaptation and we're going to change things so people don't get bored that it's going to be just the same as the book.
Well, and also we want to change things so that we can sort of piss our name onto it.
Yeah, and piss our own ideas onto it. Things that are tickling in the back of our mind that we always wanted to put into film.
Yeah, and
we'll just find a way to...
If you want to do that, make your own movie.
Yeah, I mean, this half of this is a completely different story that has absolutely nothing to do with Clive Barker's book. And it's not even a good story.
No.
He just turned it into a weird, hard-boiled detective story with no detectives.
Yeah, yeah. And the main character is a jerk. I mean, and he's got no direction, he's got no sense, he's got no moral sense.
No. I don't know. I'm glad this never got made, and I hope it never gets made. I'm sure that...
Yeah, Anthony DiBlasi, after Dredd came out, I think Anthony DiBlasi's relationship with Seraphim kind of ended.
Right. I mean, that's one of the worst movies that I've seen. One of the worst adaptations was Dredd. I hate that movie. I really do.
Yeah.
It's so terrible. It changes everything that was good and puts new stuff that is...
Yeah.
Just not part of the story.
Yeah.
It's like it's why are you creating all this backstory and all these?
He put a stereotypical horror movie hook ending.
Yeah, it's like I hated Dread,
where
especially
the bad guy gets the good guy and gets to live on for a sequel later on.
Quaid doesn't die at the end of Dread. That completely negates the whole cathartic thing of the story.
Yeah.
It's like he's a jerk. He's been doing horrible things. He wants to know the basic nature of fear. Well, the best thing to happen to him is actually have mortal fear.
Yeah.
And actually experience it.
And he's kind of like, in a way, he's kind of like Mamoulian in that he wants to make everybody else experience this stuff that he's fascinated with because he can't. He's too chicken to do it himself.
And these scenes in the script, like Mamoulian, the card player, being in Warsaw in a huge church with like a waltz dancing army of zombies that are just under his spell. It's just so over the top and ridiculous.
Oh, and the scene where the spider that Marty crushed on the horse stall, comes back to life and
I noticed
and runs away.
Yeah.
It's like, I bet, you could just see that, like, them focusing on it, and, it'd just be like, oh, come on.
I know. It's so many tropes used in this movie, it's not even funny. I mean, like you said, the moth and the cobweb and the coyote in Atlantic City. It's just ridiculous. I'm happy this was never made. This would have been terrible.
Yeah.
And, hey,
and actually, just to be a devil's advocate, we don't know what draft this is.
No, we don't. There's no draft number here. It just says
it's a revision, or there are sections that say revision sometimes.
Yeah, some sections say revision, which is even more astounding. That before these revisions, it was probably worse. It's like, oh wow, and this section is revised and it's terrible.
Yeah.
So
I mean, this could have been another movie like Dread.
This would have been another movie like Dread. Seriously, it would have been a flop. It would have been terrible. I would have hated it as well. And it's glad that this is no longer being done. I mean, it started with the Plague, and it's like the Plague, Dread, and this script.
And kind of Book of Blood, too. I mean, Book of Blood is good, but it was... Nobody really talks about it like it's an awesome movie. It's just kind of, it's there.
Yeah, it's a shame because it's so loyal.
We couldn't even remember who the director is.
Right, and it's a shame because it's so loyal to the story. I mean, it doesn't really try to change it drastically like these scripts do. It's like, go watch Book of Blood. It's a nice movie. Give it a chance.
Yeah.
But, stay away from Dread. Stay away from Clive Barker's The Plague. It was supposed to be Clive Barker Presents The Plague.
Yeah.
There was a whole mess of things, and we'll probably mention this some other time because it's getting late. But there was controversy.
We did talk about The Plague, too, in another episode.
Yeah. How Masonberg and Anthony DiBlasi were producers. They started pointing fingers at each other. It was bad.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, this is... and this is just awful. And it's not, and it's meddling with the source material, which you have to do when you make a movie out of a book, because there's a lot of interior monologue and things that, and exposition that you have to figure out a way to make them visual, but still, there's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of unnecessary changes.
Unnecessary changes, yeah.
The settings.
A lot of added stuff. A lot of added stuff. Completely reconstructed stuff. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, after what he's done to the story, I can't even honestly say it's the same story anymore. It's very different.
And there are some things and some motivations and some stuff that are callbacks to the novel that only make sense if you've read the novel, because they don't make sense in the context of this new movie that he's making.
Right. There's elements like the dogs, like all the little dogs that Whitehead had. There's that awesome scene where the dogs are reanimated and dug up by a great...
I was thinking that too. That was such a horrific...
Bella.
such a horrific scene, and it was like when the horror of what Mamoulian can do is like really put there in the foreground for Marty, and it's like this is the first time he comes into contact with that and gets an understanding that this isn't just some guy. And that just totally gets thrown out. I mean, those dogs are there, and the dogs are killed, but that's it.
But that, at the same time, it would completely lose the power that it has in the novel, even if it had happened, because they just go so over the top. Like when Karis is in the family tomb, her mother starts screaming and scratching inside the coffin. It's like, all right, well, that's even worse than the dogs.
Yeah, so why bother doing that?
Why bother doing the dogs? Yeah, I mean, it would be just terrible. It's interesting to discuss it. A lot of people, I'm sorry if you guys can't have access to the script, but maybe you can look it up somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we were able to find it. It's not where we found it anymore, but... Yeah,
so... If you do find it, just please write us something and let us know what you thought of it as well, because it's just a crazy script.
This will never see the light of day, So if you don't take our criticism and think like this is gonna, if the Damnation game gets made, this is not what it's gonna be.
Yeah,
this script is just gonna sit in a drawer.
Thank heavens.
Yeah,
I know it would have been terrible. So. Hopefully, Damnation game still has a chance to have a good adaptation.
Yeah. So I think the challenge with Damnation game, no matter how you make it, is that Lord of Illusions borrowed pretty heavily from it already. Mm-hmm. So it's got to stay true to the novel, but it's got to separate itself from Lord of Illusions a little bit.
Yeah. I remember, Nick's telling Swan that he wants him to join him in the darkness and stuff, and that's obviously taken from Mamoulian's lines in Damnation game. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I think that the scene with the monk and would have been fine in here. I don't see any reason to have left that out.
Yeah, instead of a revolutionary.
Yeah, and it was all. I think it was all done through getting into his mind or something like that. That could have been done through flashback scenes, and I don't know.
Right. And there's very hokey lines in this script as well. I mean, there's very hokey lines. So we don't really have any listener feedback, except that one of our listeners, you asked, coming up this weekend, we're talking about something you haven't read. What could it be? And Jason Stellarik said, no way, I know what it is. And you said, I bet you don't. And he says, I'll bet I do. I have a strong spidey sense. I'll have to tune in to confirm it, though.
Yeah.
So, let us know if this is what you thought it was.
Yeah. I'm thinking that somehow he thought it was Scarlet Gospels. But then when you said it was a movie script, that was the hint.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe the Hellraiser remake? I have no idea.
He'll let us know. Let us know.
Yep.
Okay.
We're not that in the know.
Right. So if you guys can find the script, give it a read. Maybe it'll help you understand a little more of what we were talking about. Yeah. But at the same time, it is a jumbled mess. So I'm sorry if we skipped a few things or kept going back and forth. But this movie would have been a very confusing movie.
Yeah. I mean,
and it's a very confusing
If
script.
it had followed the novel more, we would have remembered better what things happened in what order.
Right. It's a 124-page script, so it was a little bit of a chore to read it. And I didn't really reread it for this episode. I just read it a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I just gave it a one.
I read it recently. I read it on Wednesday.
Right. So, anyway, that was The Damnation Game by Anthony DiBlasi from 2000 and... what year is this?
So it was going to be made into a movie in 2011.
Right. It was written in June 21, 2011. So that was it. That was The Damnation Game by Anthony DiBlasi. Damnation Game still has a chance of getting a good adaptation.
Yeah. Yeah, so lots of cool things coming for Clive Barker, and hopefully it'll, the the run of bad luck with like Dread and the Plague is over.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that's it for this episode, I guess.
Yeah. Well, have a good day or night.
And have a good Easter. Happy Zombie Jesus Day.
Yeah. Right. Have a good Easter. Yeah. Well, that's because Mamoulian walked past Jesus' tomb.
Oh, snap. Oh, that's bad. That's bad.
That's really sacrilegious.
I know. Oh well. Well, I said Happy Zombie Jesus Day. So.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
All right. On that note, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. I guess that's it. Bandwidth for this episode was provided by Pyramid Gallery. Go to their website, pyramidgallery.com, and buy one of their puzzle boxes. You can reach us on the web at www.clivebarkercast.com. Leave us a review on iTunes. We're on Podomatic, Xbox Music Store, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, Double Twist, BlackBerry, and Pocket Cast. Like our page on Facebook and join the Occupy Midian group. On Twitter, we're at BarkerCast and at Occupy Midian. The forum is www.clivebarkerfans.com/forum. Opening theme by Colin Lakativa.